responsible. If they're paying for the drug, then they have part of the blame and liability.
That's a good point. They're complicit, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about the woman who moved from California to Oregon and a couple other cases, but did you guys research any other cases of physician-assisted suicide that you want to share?
There's Craig Ewert. He was an old man. What was his illness?
I don't know exactly what his illness was, but this was kind of like the first case of physician-assisted suicide that was nationally broadcasted. His death was televised, and there was video of it, and you can look it up and watch it on YouTube or whatever, which I wouldn't want to. But this was the first case that people could actually see the event happening and see what was actually going on.
Yeah, they filmed it in his home, and it showed him take the pill, or maybe it's liquid. Yeah. And his wife was there with him, and it showed him dying, he just shut down and
he was older.
Mm-hmm. That might have honestly been the reason for it, just because he was old and he might have, I don't know, he might have had
60 Minutes televised Jack Kevorkian and his little machine hooking somebody up and letting them push the button and watching him pass. But that's when most of society was against what was going on. So is there any concern that with the high cost of health care and the high cost of caring for those with chronic diseases or end-of-life diseases, that there might be the possibility that the patient may feel pressure from family members to request this?
That's tricky because in most cases that we've looked at, the family is against it, just because they love them, and you don't want to see your family member die. And I hadn't really thought of the money side of it here, but
well, not just the money, but also just if you have someone in your family who, it's very costly to send them to a nursing home, but they need round-the-clock care. They can't be left alone because they're going to fall, or they can't feed or go to the bathroom by themselves. It costs a lot of money to provide in-home care as well. Just the way families are, you're like, okay, you've had a great life, great run. It's time now. Why don't you go ask for that medication?
I think that there would be pressure, maybe not the family saying exactly you should do this, but internal pressure. I feel like if it was me, if I put myself in this situation and I was suffering and I couldn't do anything for myself and I was putting my family through that, there might be a little bit of consideration for my family of that. I didn't want them to have to do everything for me or pay the money to have to care for me or all of that. So I think that there would be some persuasion of internally from the person who is suffering for their family to do that. But I think most of the people do it because of that reason, I would say, or the reason that they have lost control over themselves.
Let me ask you one more question, and this deals with people who have a progressive disease where they're going to mentally decline. Somebody who's got dementia, somebody who's got Alzheimer's, somebody who is not going to be able to have the capacity to make the decision. They've got a terminal illness that is going to take away their capacity. Can they make that decision while they're still lucid and say, when I get to this point, just give me this with my coffee or something like that, or let me, put this pill out with my morning pills and I'll take it. Can you, in advance, request this, in advance of the point where you might actually use it?
Yeah, I think, at that point, it's up to the psychiatrist that they've, referred them to, and if they are lucid, I feel like that would be considered a clear-headed decision. And
right, but I'm not going to take the medication now. I want to wait till I've forgotten who all you people are.
Yeah,
but because I wouldn't have capacity then, I need to get the permission now.
The thing is with the process when you ask for it, so you have to ask twice, orally, spoken to your doctor, and then a written request, and then 2 days after that is when they typically prescribe the drugs. So I'm not sure how that would work out because it's a pretty quick process. So if they're still lucid and then they've been like prescribed the drug. I'm not sure, I'm really not sure how that would work out. I don't know if that's something you can plan for, like
I
in the
don't
future.
think you can, because it has to be, the rule is it has to be 6 months, like you're gonna die in 6 months.
Okay.
So someone with dementia or that's going downhill, they don't have definite proof that they're gonna die soon.
Do doctors ever have definite proof that
No,
someone's gonna die?
but they can't, most people with dementia actually like live longer, even
Absolutely,
if they can't.
Alzheimer's as well.
Yeah,
but-
even if they can't really think very well, they still will live longer.
Did you all see any, I know you mentioned public opinion that is becoming more acceptable. In your research, did you see any type of national polling or any type of public opinion polls that show, how many people support this versus how many people are against it? I'm hoping we're still hope for our country.
The only thing we looked into that was just how many states like had it legalized and how many didn't. We don't know like the exact numbers of.
Fair, I just was curious if it was, like, you hear pro-life,
Yeah.
versus pro-choice, and the statistics were relating that and where it falls on a national level. I was just, there's no right answer. I just was curious if you found anything on it.
The only thing we looked into that was just what states had it legalized and which didn't. But we did talk to Coach Siemens last week about his opinion on this topic, and he told us that he believes that within the next few years that Kentucky will vote on it. Right now, Kentucky hasn't even like heard a peep about this or considered this at all. But Siemens believes that within the next couple of years, all Kentuckians, Kentucky residents will vote on this. So
That's why elections matter. But I usually ask this when I do these panel groups. I feel pretty comfortable, and you all have articulated where you stood on this issue before researching it. But was there anything new that in your research that you learned? Anything, I hate to even say interesting because it's not, but anything that you weren't aware of by researching this topic?
I think like the process, like I wasn't aware of like all the requirements you have to meet in order to go through with it. And also, like we did talk to some of the Bible teachers and just hearing their perspectives about it. They were both against it, but just hearing like them playing devil's advocate and like the whole compassion side of it. It's really difficult to put yourself in someone else's place when they're suffering and going through that. But I mean, it has been interesting for me, like learning about it and learning like both sides of it, I think.
And I find it interesting that statistically 91.6% like patients who requested physician-assisted suicide wanted to go through with it because they felt they're losing autonomy, control over their bodies and minds, and only 25% wanted to go through with it because of pain. So I think that raises even more questions. Like, is it really because of pain?
I didn't really know very much going into it about, and it surprised me how big of a debate it was, and I didn't think it would be legal in this many states, so that was really interesting to me. And then also that you can get so many verses from the Bible about physician-assisted suicide to argue against it. Like obviously it doesn't say the word physician-assisted suicide because it wasn't there back then, but it still has some good ways to lead us in the right direction.
Yeah, it's really hard to like biblically support assisted suicide, just because like all the verses and everything we brought up. I just feel like everything in the Bible is against it, and there was one other thing I was gonna say. Oh, about back to what you were saying about like people supporting it and not. I did see this like chart when I was doing my research. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but it was like between non-believers and believers, and like the numbers were just insane. Like the contrast in them, because so many Christians were against it, and then like non-believers kind of split. I guess that's more of a moral thing in that case, but I just thought that was really
So
interesting.
could that play into some of the geography you guys were talking about, the states that have adopted it versus the states that haven't, and what Mrs. Crosby said about, or Coach Siemens even, about Kentucky and maybe down the road, but obviously we're not where Oregon is right now. What do you think about the demographic or the geographic location of the states that have adopted this versus the ones that haven't that you listed earlier?
I don't know what this means, but most of them are in the West Coast, kind of.
Okay.
And Joanna noticed that they're all Democratic states.
Okay, they tend to vote more Democratic.
Yeah.
Okay. So any states in the South that have adopted this, of those 9?
I mean, no.
We talked about Colorado, we talked about Oregon, DC, I think maybe. Most of those are northern states, right? What do we tend to call the South? What do we refer to it as? The what? The Bible Belt, right? Yes. Tends to be so maybe that plays a little bit more into that demographic you were talking about. It's less likely to be adopted by professed believers than, or to be accepted by professed believers than maybe not. So maybe a little harder to push through the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
Well, given that, and we just have a couple of minutes left, but as our country becomes increasingly less Christian, what are some non-biblical arguments that you can make against physician-assisted suicide if it were to come in ballot here? I mean, you can't really put out, well, you could, but putting an ad on television that says the Bible says this is wrong is probably not going to help your case. How could you help defeat a bill like that in Kentucky?
For me personally, I think I would go along the facts of recent cases that have, like the one that we described, to where when she was 17, she was thinking about getting physician-assisted suicide, but however many years later, she's still alive and she's thriving. So I think I would go around that sort of examples, or
Yeah, and the moral side, instead of like, you don't have to use the Bible to say that it's not moral. And I think I would use facts like the Hippocratic Oath that go against it and things like that.
Is the Hippocratic Oath enforceable?
No, but why? Since the physicians shouldn't be doing it, like how can it be legal?
Well, I was going to say, if the
Yeah.
tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, does it really make a noise? If it's not enforceable, does it really have any authority over them? Because I've actually read articles where doctors say, yeah, that's not really a thing anymore. We don't really pay
And I
attention
think
to that.
we-
And certainly abortion doctors don't pay attention to it.
Yeah, and we read something where most physicians were for it, but they also said that after they enacted it, it had an effect on their later treatment.
Well, and I think most of them are doing it for the compassion reason. They're
Yeah.
seeing their patients in pain and suffering and very unhappy. And so they see it as helping because they're helping them, get out of a difficult situation. And I guarantee you that the poster child for the push to get it in this country is going to be someone with chronic pain all the time. And so we need to come up with sufficient answers for that person. Thank you.
Thank you.